Hey guys, and
Mm.
welcome to the collaboration between This Is Marriage and Little Black Book. Yes, today, guys, we have a fantabulismo particular episode for you today. So we're talking about the questions we are afraid to ask. But I'm going to hand over to my co-host. My co-host. I almost called him a horse. My bad, bro. I'm gonna hand over to my co-host. This is Marriage UK. Curtis, you may remember him from such shows as Married at First Sight. You already know how we do.
In
But
the
I'm gonna hand him
beginning.
over in the beginning. You know what I mean. But I'm gonna hand him over and let him take over and enjoy the ride. Go for it, Captain.
Yeah, I like how you're doing that, but that's not going to happen, man. But still, thank you for having us on again, man. This is Marriage UK. We have those challenging conversations. We have those guests that don't hold back, and we are, of course, collaborating with a great guy. But we have someone even greater, Christina. Oh no, um, we don't blow trumpets where we come from, so it's not easy. You know what I mean?
I know.
Pressure.
You can't blow trumpets, man. But Christina, introduce yourself. What do you do? Where you're from? What's your status? Just in case.
So I am Christina Carradise. I'm from South London, but I'm actually residing in. That's
I'm
right.
saying,
What
South
part of
London
South are
down
you
here,
in
man.
now? What part of South?
That's it.
Oh, that's lovely. But I've moved off end, so I'm in Berkshire. I say Berkshire, but
Ooh.
husband's always telling me I'm saying it wrong.
That's how South London you are.
So, yeah, when
Mm.
we met, he actually told me I had a South London accent. I didn't know there was such a thing, but apparently there is. I don't know. But I am married
Mm.
and I am a missing and exploitation youth worker. So I
Wow.
work with young people that are either sexually or criminally exploited and at risk of going missing.
Mm. Wow. That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Shout out to you, man, because
Yeah.
that's a deep profession right there. You know.
It is.
Yeah,
It is. And well, I think we might touch on it a little while
Mm.
absolutely.
because everything is everything. I believe that
Big time.
everything's connected. Today we're talking. The topic is the questions that we're afraid to ask.
Yep.
I think it's not subject to marriage. I think it's subject to friendship and relationships in
Yeah.
general.
Hmm.
Yeah. And this is it. Let me bring it in. This is something I know because I'm talking to people on this through our show, through life. Some folk are happy. No, not happy. Some folk will be. They will be married, and there's a compartment in the back of their minds where they keep their fears. And some of those fears are based on what we're going to talk about tonight. They will coexist happily with these fears, things that they suspect and question, don't want to address it. Put the question back here because I want to keep my relationship as it is because
Hmm.
I'm afraid to know.
Hmm.
Christina. Christina and I do similar work. She
Yeah.
works with specialists, but we do similar work. And we have to do assessments, right?
Yeah.
Christina, go for it, man. From there.
So, in my everyday job, there's one thing that we have to do all the time, which is risk assessment. So it's just assessing risk. So, in my one-to-one work with young people, I tend to do a lot of conversations with them about what ifs, so hypothesizing, like lots of conversations. And I found like a comment, and how that came about is that I found a common theme with the vulnerable young people that I worked with was that when I actually sat down and spoke to them, they had missed out on a lot of conversations that I then had to fill in the gap and have these conversations with them. And I started to think, wow, like if parents would talk to their children about these things, then I might not be having to be here working with this young person and creating a safe space for them to be able to ask questions or for me to ask questions to them. And for example, as I said before, I work with young people that are at risk of being exploited and risk of going missing. How many parents do you think sit down their children and say, like, have you ever thought of going missing? Or what would happen in this family home? Or what would I do as a parent to make you be like, do you know what? This is long. I'm packing my bags and I'm going. Furthermore, I'm not even packing my bags. I'm just going and I'm not going to come back. And it's what Curtis touched on before. A lot of people will think not to have that conversation because it's like, why would I have that conversation? My child is here. They're not going to go missing. But yet again, I work with young people that go missing.
That's right.
And I've been in rooms with parents that are shocked and confused and don't understand. I don't know why they would do that, X, Y, Z. But obviously, I've had a deeper level conversation with them. So I have an understanding as into why. And I really advocate for the fact that I feel like even if it's never happened before, have that conversation, have that just in case conversation. And I think the fear for, and I'm going to speak about parents a lot, and I'm going to bring it back to marriage in a moment, because it was through this work that I thought of applying this mindset and this approach to relationships and to marriage. I was like, this actually works. This makes sense. If I'm going to be doing risk assessments with young people all the time, talking about the what ifs, talking about what would you do if you was in this situation, or what would make you do A, or what would make you do B, I'm thinking, when else do I actually really have these conversations? Because these conversations are actually saving young people's lives and helping relationships between parents and children. You kind of be that middle person to be like, you know, have this conversation with your son or have this conversation with your daughter. And I remember when I first started doing this job, obviously brought up Christian in the church, etc. And I remember I said to my dad, at the time, my title was child sexual exploitation and youth advocate, something like that. And obviously, the only word he heard was sexual, right? That's the only word my dad heard. And I had to like explain it a bit to him what I was doing and etc. And obviously, part of the job is talking to young people about sex. It's talking to them about sex in the law, talking to them about consent, etc. And you have to do that in terms of talking about the exploitation side of things. And my dad was like, oh, so you're going to be encouraging young people to have sex? Obviously, that was his mindset, because in his mind, talking about something is encouraging something. And it's interesting that we don't think about it as a reverse, that actually talking about something can prevent something, or maybe at the same time just inform you. And one thing that I say all the time is that an uninformed child is a vulnerable child. And it's just about, at the end of the day, I do my work all the time, and sometimes I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. There's no change, whatever. You know, Curtis, we're talking about, it's like you go to the meetings and everyone's onto you, wants to know what you've done, what magic you've done to turn things around. Yeah. And I got to the point now in my work where I'm just informing them. At the end of the day, we all have to make our decisions. But isn't it best that someone can make a decision based on, you know, being able to have those conversations and have knowledge behind it, to be like, you know what, I know the pros and cons of this. I know if I do A, it leads to B. Because even from my experience, I think, of growing up as a Christian young person in the church, was these conversations weren't had. And a lot of my peers say the same thing. No one spoke to me about this. No one spoke to me about that.
You know what? You know what? I remember, I think the youngest person I worked with was a bisexual 12-year-old.
Oh, wow.
I bring that up to say the mum just about could get her head around it.
Yeah.
And I know that this is out there, in that you can get some type of support that really condones everything that the child wants. That's their identity. That's what they want. Sometimes we are scared. But I've had to have these conversations with and I'm having them one by one with the children to say, are you, you know, I'd have to have these conversations to say, are you? Various conversations, because I don't want to be surprised.
Yeah. Trust me, don't want to be.
I don't want to be surprised, and I don't want to see behavior. So we're just going to move this on slightly, because what it is that this is a deep psychological topic, right? I I don't want to see behavior and ignore it and think that I can pray it away. Do you know what I'm saying?
That is a whole nother next. That's
But we have to go there a little bit. We have to go there a little bit because, again, when we grew up, we all grew up in church. We all grew up in church. Christina, we got a video on YouTube, of you on our channel.
No.
Hey, this is marriage.
No.
We look at this. Oh my gosh! Now look, parents would do well to watch that. But this conversation is it, right? You will see things and go, you know what, Lord, and you'll retreat to your prayer warriors. You will try and man them up. I don't know.
Yeah.
And think that it will disappear. But there are conversations as parents. We're not into the relationships yet. There are conversations with your parents like, you need to ask your kid. In fact, no, let me not take it away because Christina, let me ask you, what kind of questions do we need to be asking our children?
So many. Oh my gosh. So I think the best thing to do, a lot of young people don't like talking about I, like in the first person. So one thing that we use is like going through case studies, going through stories. It's other people's issues, it's other people's problems. And it's about being smart as a parent, because at the end of the day, it's awkward and it's going to take a while. So it's finding a certain film, finding a certain short film on YouTube, purposely putting it on, and then sparking a conversation out of that as like a starter. Do you know, just pausing it or afterwards to be like, oh, wow, so-and-so did such and such. Have you ever thought about doing that? Or what do you think they were thinking when they did that? Or what do you think drove them to do that? Because with answering these questions, what we're trying to figure out is someone's thought process. Trying to figure out someone's thought process, why they would do something. What are they thinking about? Are they thinking about something? Have they never thought about it before, etc.? And you can kind of take things from there. But I mean, obviously, because of the clientele that I have, the questions are things like, as I said before, like, would you ever, what would I do to make you feel like you're not safe and you need to leave this house and you need to run away from the problems that are here? What would make you want to do that?
I have to ask my child that. You're saying I should ask my child that?
1000%. Because I feel like the main thing about this whole thing of questions, I would rather have an awkward conversation with someone that I care about right now, as opposed to letting things just go. And I'm seeing certain things and I've got questions, but as you said, Curtis, they're in the fear part of my head. And I'm like, if I ask though, it might, as my dad was thinking, it's going to encourage it. If I speak to them, if I say to my child, like, you know, have you ever thought about using drugs? Or what do you think someone's thought process is to use drugs or to do X, Y, Z, to do whatever? And I guess the fear is that you really think as a parent, you're going to say that and your child's going to run out the house and try and find the next drug and like take it straight away. That's not the way that it works, but it opens up that conversation. And it's to see where they're at, if they've ever thought about it. So yeah, it is questions like, obviously it's a lot around missing, a lot about exploitation, or try not to like be too not
disclosed. That's right.
But it's because obviously at work there's certain questions I have to ask because of what's going on with them.
But you know, there's questions like, you know something? I know this is going to move on deep into the next part of the topic. There are questions like, we have to ask these questions. Do you have suicidal thoughts?
Right.
Yeah, but I can't tell my mom.
That's a heavy
I
one.
can't tell my dad, right? And then the question now is, why can't you tell your mom? And now move from the child to the parent or the dad, whoever it is. And then ask that same question to the parent. Why can't you ask your child that question? Rather, why can't they tell you? And the parent has to reflect.
And a lot of parents won't reflect, isn't it? And they don't. We see it in work, innit? You sit in the meeting and it's, I don't know why they're like this, and it's very you. And it's like if we take a step back and we kind of look at things and have these conversations. Just why these conversations are key. Do you know what I mean? Just to thinking out someone's thought process, because I feel like I got like weird, like sometimes I have to be like, how did you even think about that? Then I explain it and it's like, oh, it's kind of like you're giving someone a code to how their brain works. And that is so important for a relationship. When you're a parent, you can't just assume your child is going to think like you. Oh, when I was growing up, I never did X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's you. Do you know what I mean? You need to have a different conversation. It's a different century. It's a different time. Do you understand? You need to have certain conversations to prevent things. It's not going to, I do not believe that talking to your child about substance misuse is going to make them go out and misuse that, like, so, and if that's the case, if people believe that, then why are you not talking to your child about it? Are you just hoping and praying that this is never going to be an issue? And then when it is an issue, you're just going to pray it away, or me and Curtis are going to have to work with your child.
I'm gonna have to say to them, go to Kojo for some more advice, because we can't we can't handle this. And this is why, Kojo, there was a comment by Dollar Queen. There's a number of
parents intentionally avoid asking their child. Is that the one you're talking about?
There's one earlier than that.
Okay. Let me grab it for you.
But there's some really profound comments here. Some parents think that it's just putting clothes on your back and feeding you. Mistake. It's gonna be deep, because I'm gonna take. Here we go, Dollar Queen. A lot of people feel like talking about what ifs will manifest negativity.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
From fear instead of preparation. Come on, man.
1000%, because you're thinking, if everything is good, if everything seems good, actually not even good, if everything seems okay, then why am I going to rock the boat and ask you questions that might open a can of worms? And I feel like, but the can of worms is better than what it could possibly be if you just continue and never have that conversation. Because you know that so many parents are shocked.
Wow.
Do you get what I mean? Shocked. Like, oh, I didn't know. And it's like, okay, so, but how comes you didn't know? And it's not even a blaming thing. It's not a blaming thing at all. It's just about, okay, so how can we not be shocked? How can we not be reactive? How can we be proactive? How can we have safe conversations to be like, you know, and your child might turn around and be like, Mom, I've never thought about that. Oh, that's great. And you can even talk about third person. Oh, so, you know, when people do X, Y, and Z, have you ever thought about why they might do that? That's just another conversation, thinking of, okay, why do other people do those kind of things? Because as life goes on, things change. So your child at 12 might have a different answer to they would at 15. But maybe at 12 they've said no. But because you've expanded that conversation and be like, okay, so you're saying you're not really about that. But do you have any idea as into why you think someone that would, you know, what would make them do X, Y, and Z? And it's getting them thinking. And if it is that it gets to a point in their life and they see themselves getting to that, they can come back and be like, Mom, you know what we spoke about? I feel like that's happening to me. And obviously it's safe. We've already had that conversation. I've already made it safe for you. We've already spoken about the what ifs, and it's safe. And we can now talk about it and we can work on it together, as opposed to it's radio silence, and then it's like where I'm having suicidal thoughts said to a professional or said in a school, and then it comes back to the parent. It's like, wow, like I didn't know. And then you open up a bit more and it's like, oh, but I did notice this, you know, and I did notice that, you know.
We do see.
Notice this, you know.
We do see. Everyone see red flags. Yeah, you know, red is the most visible color to the eye. Everyone sees them. Everyone sees them, and red flags are important because they just mean that things need to be addressed either on your part or their part, but a conversation needs to be had. Yeah. But this moves into, if you don't mind, because
I'm about to say we need to move into the marriage part. How this relates in a relationship, in marriage.
So let me just bring this in then.
Okay.
Was you asking a question to?
No. I thought that's where you wanted to go.
Yeah, I was going there. You're minding a little bit. No, you because this is the thing. By law, every child in this country needs to be looked after if they're unsafe and protected, right? So this is the thing. when we do these assessments, we have to ask all these questions. Now, married couples, all we do is make vows, man. I promise, but it's like, hold on, to keep the promise, even if you're just in a relationship, to keep the promise or to say, we're going in this direction, do you know what you have to do? So Christina, today when I was talking to you, you put the sweats on me because I'm like, you got some questions that people could ask.
It's tricky.
Okay.
It's tricky.
What
so I feel like in a marriage, in a relationship, let's keep it in a marriage. If you don't want to get a divorce, you have to talk about divorce. That's what I think. And that is taking the same approach and mindset that I've taken in work. It's the same principle. And obviously, I said to Curtis earlier, like, you could say to your partner, what would make you want to divorce me?
Yeah.
What would make you want to leave me? What would make you turn your back on the family, go out the door and be like, do you know what? And obviously that is...
Christina, hold on. If we're doing all right...
Yeah, you're doing good.
If we're doing all right, why are you raising up?
Baby.
All right is today, fam. All right is today, because I feel like and it's I was talking to my husband earlier about this as well. It's like in terms of therapy, right? A lot of people see counseling and see therapy. It has this stigma, and it must mean like if a couple was to say, "Oh yeah, we're in counseling," and everyone's like, "What's going on there?" or "What's happened?" It could be like, "No, we're all good. We just want to stay good. We want to maintain." So like, do you know what I mean? It's changing the narrative of let's talk about things, and if we're good, then it's not going to rock the boat. If it does rock the boat, then it means that maybe it weren't as good as we thought it was. Or maybe I thought it was good and it's not actually good with you. And how are we going to know unless we have those awkward conversations? Because they might just be going along and you're thinking, yeah, everything's amazing. And they're thinking, no, but they're playing the role. And they've learned how to show you that they love you and all that kind of stuff. But really and truly, there might actually be something there. And some might turn around and say, oh, but once again, you're opening up a can of worms, but they need to be open. Do you really think that that's just going to stay contained for forever throughout life? When things change as you get older and you have more kids and etc., and you move house and you change jobs and this kind of stuff is going to happen and things are going to come up. So you might be good now. I feel like when you're good is the best time to do it. When you are good is the best time to have the most awkward conversations because you're safe and good.
Yeah. You're good, yeah.
Why wait until it's like, I want a divorce? Then it's like, oh, yeah, let's try and fix this. And where this is coming from as well is, unfortunately, my parents are divorced. My husband's parents are divorced. I have friends that are divorced, etc. And having like deep conversations with them, it's like a common theme of, I wish I knew. I wish they would. So obviously, I'm like, I want to learn from that. I don't want to just be like, oh, yeah, we're good, And then learn from other people's situations and kind of be like, okay, we're good. There's always room for improvement and we need to maintain this thing.
Yeah.
And also I think it's just important to just have conversations to see if you're at the same place, because obviously me and my husband have been together 13 years this year, married 6 years. And I always say, like, the guy that I married is not the guy that I first started dating 13 years ago. And this is why you need to continue to have conversations. Because if the only time we ever had a deep conversation was 13 years ago, I'm a whole different person. So much life has happened. So many experiences happen. And it's fine for you to change your mind on things, to change your perspective of things. But that is why I feel like you need to have these ongoing conversations of, okay. And obviously, you can, I'll say this, it's about the way you ask questions as well.
Come on.
And it's the time, like, just imagine, like, you're sitting there watching, like, a nice film and everything's as good and turn and, like, would you ever divorce me or what was it? Like, whoa.
Yeah. It's Netflix and chill. How you doing that for, man?
You know, you're opening it up for me nice in that you're opening up my thinking much more.
Time and season.
You're opening up my thinking a lot more because I'm letting you all know that it's just a wonder how many people are happy to just, as long as the water's calm. You know what the Jamaicans say, the calm water run deep, innit?
Yeah.
As long as the water's calm, just keep it that way. This is the best it's ever been. Let's leave it right there. Don't
Yeah.
rock the boat, right?
Don't trouble it.
But
If
nobody
it's
wants to
not
know what's
broken,
under.
don't fix it or whatever. But
Yeah, they don't want to know what's under the water.
yeah.
And it's an important thing to know. What other questions might people want to ask though? Then I got a
Well,
question for Kojo still.
You know what? Let's flip it. I was going to do this later on, but I mean, I think it would be better. It would be better to say something like, "What can I do, or what can I continue to do to make you stay in love with me?" That is a deep and a low question, but that is a perfect question because you might be. Let's just say your love language when you started dating was one thing.
You got the man lashed.
That's a question right there.
It's a good question. It's a good question, and it's
deep.
like, why wouldn't you want to ask that question? And obviously, that is the reverse of saying, you know, what would you do for me to divorce you? So it's flipping it to to be more positive, to be like, okay, let's have a conversation about how we can maintain this.
But that's the question. That's the question I wanted to put to Kojo, right? Why would someone fear asking these questions? Because you're a psychologist around here, right? Why would someone fear asking certain questions with someone who they profess to love?
I mean, obviously, even I'm thinking about even me now. Like, why would I not ask that question? I think you're hypercritical of your own self in terms of not wanting to accept certain flaws about yourself. Sometimes it's a fear of thinking that if you do ask this question, it's opening a can of worms, and I don't know how to put those can of worms back in. So the greatest one is the fear that having that kind of conversation means we're breaking up, even though we're not breaking up.
Wow.
So a lot of us fear that asking such a question is a deal breaker in the relationship, meaning that when we deal with that issue, I can't come back from that. We're gonna break up. You're gonna leave me, if you know what I mean. So I think that is the biggest thing. Correct word there, insecurity. You know what I'm saying? So I have to tell the truth. I've got one or two insecurities that are there. That's why potentially that question may not be asked in that exact same way. So yeah, that was a powerful question that you asked there.
No. For real, I'm going to join you. Of course, I have insecurities as well, but they're really tightly, neatly packed away like it's IKEA.
Very neatly.
In a nice black pack box.
Yeah.
So Christina comes along. Juanita's watching this. She's watching it upstairs, and I know she's listening. She's like, "We're gonna unpack them things. We're gonna go in that cupboard. We're gonna drag out the drawers. What?" And then she might come up to me and say, "So what is it that I'm gonna do now, Curtis, to make you leave me? What?" that is like,
no, flip it to stay.
stay.
And you know what? And you know what? I think as well as what I was saying before. You know your partner, and you know which way would be best to answer questions. Some people just like it straight, and they would prefer the question of what would happen in this relationship for you to be like, "Nah, bun this, I'm leaving." And then you know your partner. If you ask that question, it's game over. And that's why you would maybe flip it and be like, "What can I do for you to stay like in love with me? For you to stay committed?" Like and that would work, and that would work better. And obviously, what I said before, it's timing. It can't be like random. You kind of the perfect time when it happens for us is and I don't know if this comes out of work, because at work I watch a lot of films and short films with young people, and I pause it and might ask him a question or talk about it after. So my poor husband will be watching something, and I've always got a question for what's going on, but he does it as well now, like afterwards. Like I'll give you an example. We was watching some reality TV something, and
Married at First Sight.
How did you know? It weren't that one, it's another one, but I'm not even going to promote it because I've wasted hours of my life that I want back. But it's along those lines, right? And it was that the parents were separated, and it was a whole thing of the child having that fighting over the child, and the child having to go on the weekends and the time of bringing it back. And like afterwards, we were both just quiet, and we were both just like, we never want to do that. We never want to be in that situation, and I feel that's healthy. That's healthy to have those conversations, to be like, I never want it to be a thing where we're fighting over the kids, we're separated, and is it your weekend? And we're saying that from a place of we were those kids. Do you understand? We're both from homes
Yeah.
where there's been that divorce. So I think it's healthy having those conversations. And I always find that it always leads on to a deep conversation and a profession of love, because it's just like, I love you and I never want that, baby. You know? It moves onto that level, because it's just like you're realizing, and it is thinking about like the what ifs. Like, what if we got to the point and we was like, no, but what about our daughter? Like, what would happen? How would we co-parent? What would it be? What would the reason be behind our breaking up? What do you think could break us up? What do you think that would make us be like, do you know what? It's not worth working through this. And I just feel like those are just beautiful questions, because it keeps you on your toes, and it keeps you up to date with your partner's mindset, with their expectations, keyword expectations of you. Because you might be thinking, yeah, all I need to do is A, B, and C, and they're like, actually, what I would love for you to do, or what makes me feel most loved, what makes me feel most secure, is actually EFG. And it's like, oh, and isn't it a beautiful thing that now you are informed, now you know, now you're wiser, now you can adjust things and be like, okay, in that conversation we just had, she says such and such, so I need to kind of adjust to that.
Do you know what's interesting is that insecurities is actually quite broad now, because someone might not want to know the truth about what you. I don't want to know what my wife thinks about me.
Yeah.
I'm not professing. I'm just saying, hypothetical, right? Because if I find out, I will be scared. So that's one side of it, and of what she might tell me about myself. And then the other side of it is that she might want me to do something that I don't enjoy doing.
But that's why you gotta have that conversation, even more so.
I'm just saying, it's disclaimer. This is not me. I'm just saying.
I know what I'm saying, yeah, and it is that. It's like, he's gonna say what now?
Yeah.
I want to do that. Do you know what I
want
mean?
more hugs. I want more kisses. Yeah.
And then obviously,
take me out more. Yeah.
And then you might start to, and this is what I do sometimes in these conversations, think, oh, so what I'm doing isn't good enough. And that's where you kind of need to get away from that. Be like, no. We're having a safe space now where we're just talking about the ideal. And it's fine to talk about the ideal. You might never get to it, but at least we're working towards it. At least we're informed. And it's like, this is what would be amazing. Or if you just keep doing that, then yes, like we're set. Or if you just add a little bit of this and take away a little bit of that, then we're even better. Do you know what I mean? So that at the end of the day, you can't look back and be like, oh, do you know what? But why didn't you tell me? These times, divorce, the papers have gone through, you're vexed with each other, the families ain't talking, and it's long. And it's like, but if we had these conversations sooner, if I was informed, if I knew, I would say, I'd rather be awkward. I'd rather be awkward momentarily than not together.
This topic of communication always comes up as the number one. It most often comes up as the number one reason why
relationships break, man.
Relationships, marriage fails. And
absolutely,
my thing is that I think is actually expectations that is the biggest issue. So I think it's the interplay with the words that we use.
Yeah,
but I think that they are almost synonymous.
Yeah,
in that if I don't know, then how can I do? But sometimes, and this is the truth, sometimes we don't want to know.
That's the truth.
Because I don't want to do.
I definitely don't want to.
Yeah, keeping it real.
Listen, when we get married, it's like it will be either by a choice or force of nature that if we don't go there, we are not in a relationship. You will have a false relationship. And looking back on myself, and listen, doing these shows, it's like I leave here, or there's been experiences I've had when I've got some really good friends that we're really honest about the journey. And it's only because we're talking about stuff that's actually uncomfortable. And sometimes nature will just push you in a corner. Nature will blow your trousers off, leave you naked in the corner. Do you know what I mean? In your relationship, like you'll have arguments, show you who you are and are not. So it's like my encouragement is that people just do this. If you're in a relationship, or if you're not prepared to do this, that is the only way that you will have a relationship. But Christina, I think there's an important element, because we spoke about it earlier. There's an important element to this that makes this work, or what is the fruit of just being open. Because I think it's I'm going, like you're trying to read my mind and it's not really working, is it? In fact, let me. Okay, let's read this. Sorry, the Dollar Queen. Sometimes, if a man doesn't have the answer, he feels emasculated.
Yeah.
Like he can't fix it. Instead of using communication as the vehicle to figure things out.
Boy.
That's fear. That's got to be fear, right?
And you know what? I feel like fear. I feel like I don't want to get me wrong. I feel like fear is healthy. I feel like fear in this is healthy. There needs to be an element of fear there, which is like, do you know what I mean? Because obviously you care about their opinion, you care about what they say, and it's kind of like a protective thing for yourself. It's like that's where that fear is coming from. It's like, I don't really want to be hurt in this moment. I could be too vulnerable. So I feel like fear is healthy, but it's about what's even more healthy is if your partner can feel safe enough to be scared and to ask those scary questions and know that you can hold them in that moment and be like, okay, this is a bit awkward. But we're gonna communicate this thing out. And you said something about communication earlier, and there's this saying that always says, communication to relationship is like blood to a body. It's what keeps you going around. And then I saw something else that was just like, what is more important than communication is comprehension.
Okay.
And it's just like, yeah.
Well, there is no communication without understanding.
You have to understand, because and that's what I was going about before. It's about the way that there is a way that you can should I go into this? Because you mentioned the whole thing about males and egos. I'm talking about a Dollar Queen, and
you already know me.
Okay, I'm talking to the women right now. Yeah, there's a certain way. I'm not talking to you. There's a certain way you have to talk to your guy.
You're talking to me now. You're talking to Winnie.
No, I ain't talking to you.
Don't nothing in my house, man.
Because there's this thing about the male ego. Yeah.
Go on.
There's this thing about the male ego. So, and that's why I was saying it's a certain way you got to approach things. And your partner turning around and being like, do you know what I mean? Why are you doing that? And da-da-da-da. There's a certain way that all of a sudden the tone, the frequency, the range in which you're speaking, shut down. You're coming for me. You're absolutely coming for me. So now I'm not listening to what you're saying. I just want to respond. I want to get you back because you're coming at me some type of way. But it's about creating that space. And listen, this is not easy all the time. It's not easy all the time, because if that person has annoyed you, and you're vexed. You're going to be feeling, I need to apply. What did they say again? So sometimes it's going to go out the window, innit? And you're just going to say what you're going to say. But it's also being humble enough to come back. Do you know what? I was out of order.
Yeah, you was. Yes, you was out of order.
Yes, exactly. Let me hold these women accountable out here. You know what I mean? It was always me.
Because you know what?
I was out of order. I was in my feelings. I was emotional.
Yeah, well, whatever. And it's gone.
It's too late now.
It's gone now.
Don't sell it.
But you know what?
No, you can always bring it back. Don't try it.
There's a comment by Emily Anafi.
Yeah.
She said further up at 8:03 p.m. Like I was.
I can't
put them up. This is why it's so important. That one. That's why it's so important to a couple to couple with someone who gets what it means to have a safe spaces.
Trust me, though.
What if you are with someone who isn't capable of giving you a safe space?
I've been there. Don't do it. It's a
No,
sure death.
hold on. If
That's
you're
the answer.
dating,
If you're dating,
all right, if you're dating,
I know about your marriage. Your marriage is different, but if you're dating,
I know.
just don't do it.
You can't do it, man.
Uh, you can't do it
Unless you're actually that savior. I don't know.
unless that
Right.
person's willing to. Unless you can see that person has the energy to try and learn that. I'm not doing it. I've done it once. I'll never do it again. It is disheartening. It will break you, and it causes you to react in a way that you don't want to react in. Do you know what I'm saying? It brings you out of pocket. You don't want to be in that space because once you've opened yourself, you've said that my rib cage is open. You can touch my heart.
Yeah.
That's what you're basically saying. Do you understand?
yeah,
So if
yeah.
you're stabbing at my heart, I'm gonna naturally react out of not like physically,
Yeah,
but
reflex.
verbally.
Yes,
You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
yes.
Reflex is gonna come out.
Yeah,
do you know
keep
what
your
I
hands by
mean?
your side when you're saying that, bro.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So I that safe space I do not play with it, and I would advise anybody going into a relationship, do not submit to not having that safe space. You cannot work on it if they're not going to work on it. There's no relationship because
Amen.
you will
That's
die
word.
a sure death.
That's a word. That's a word. Dead man walking.
Dead man walking.
Dead man walking. That's a
Dead man
word.
walking.
So then, what would you say, bro? Can you straight still? And then I'll ask Christina after.
Yeah.
And then I have a question. Eventually, I'll get to my question.
Well, in terms of that question,
That question to marriage.
if it's in marriage, then you don't have to find a way. And for me, it's all about being able to get a point across. So you have to, and this is the tough thing because it depends how far along this relationship is, depends how much you know each other. But you want to be able to communicate. So I spoke to someone just recently, and I was saying to them that, and Christina actually made my point for me, is that when we're dealing with men and women, there is a way that we have to deal with each other, right? Because what she's talking about, when women can get, I don't like saying emotional, when women can get irate, right? Then the natural biological male's reaction is that he thinks he's dealing with another male psychologically. So when she gets irate, he thinks I'm dealing with another male. So naturally, his instinct to try and protect comes out because what he's sensing is not feminine energy, it's sensing the masculine energy. But that's why I said when women come and they soften it for you, right? She doesn't know that. And I always say this, and some women might not like it because they're like, no. But listen, if you come in a certain way, you actually disarm any weaponry he's coming with, because so long as he's a decent guy, please. If he's a prick, he's a prick. He's not going to change. But if he's a decent guy, very similar to how, I don't know if you guys have ever watched Shrek before. Puss in Boots, whenever he gets the hat and does a little googly eyes, and the camera goes to them, everybody goes, oh. The same thing happens to men. This is why when babies are like their cute stage, everybody feels, oh, look at the little baby. Da-da-da. It disarms you. So at that point, when we're about to have a discussion where it's really tough, or it's an argument, or it's a safe space conversation, both parties got to play their role. As a male, in my role, I've got to make sure that if you're looking to share your feelings, I've got to let you know, hey, I'm ready for this conversation. And if I'm not, let me reschedule and tell you, I'm going to be ready for this conversation in an hour's time. Because what that does for the feminine energy says, he's keeping me safe. He can't have it right now, but he's willing to have that conversation later on. Now, when she comes later on and says, okay, the hour's up, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to have the conversation. I've also braced myself and I'm ready now to have the conversation. So when you begin to explain how you feel, I can also go, okay, I'm getting what you're saying, because at that moment, I'm ready for what you're having. I think the problem that happens is we come at ill opportune times for each other. This is not just women to men. This is both men and to women. You know what I'm saying? Like you're vexed at that moment, and you can't hold it in, and you say something, and it ignites the flame.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm ignited, and then suddenly, before we know it, we're somewhere we didn't,
Burning up.
we're not burning up. You know what I'm saying? So I think Christina touched it properly. Time and season is so perfect, but then especially if you're a male, you want to make sure you let her know, I'm ready for this conversation, or I'm not.
Yeah.
Do not try to have that conversation. You're not ready. And people that are people pleasers, especially the men, please, if you're not ready, don't say you're ready and then not be ready.
Yeah.
And then you have an argument because you're vexed at her and then cussing her later on. No. If you're not ready, stick true to it and tell her, I'm not ready. Hour's time, I'm ready for you to conversate. It keeps her safe as well.
And what does
And
she need to
ladies
do then?
respect that.
Yeah.
So.
And ladies need to respect that. Yeah, exactly. Go on then, Christina.
And it's difficult. It's difficult. Listen, I've had this conversation so many times with my girlfriends, and I think sometimes we're told the wrong thing. You know, there's that saying. It's like, don't let what is it? Don't let the sun set on your
anger.
And
on
younger.
your anger.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to sleep it off.
Yeah.
Like
that's
sometimes
true,
you
man.
maybe need to come back in the morning. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to assess the situation. If you're having an argument at like 2 o'clock in the morning, just come in for work or whatever it is, and they're tired and you're vexed about something, and it might be that what you need right now is to talk this out and have this conversation. But as Kojo was saying, you might not get the best result at this time. And it's saying, and you can voice how you feel, like I'm feeling X, Y, Z, or when you said such and such, it made me feel like this. I want to have an opportunity to talk to you about this. Can we talk about it now, or when would be best? That is difficult to say when you're vexed, but it's about thinking about the outcome. And I'm thinking from experience. I'm a person. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it now. But if I know you're going to shut off, you're not listening to what I'm saying, that's going to annoy me even more.
Word.
And as you're saying, we're going to end up escalating into a place that we didn't have to be if I just kind of respected that you're caught off guard. You don't know what God. You've just come home, and I'm like, ah! It's like, whoa. I don't actually have time for this. Like, I've had a bad day. There can be so many different factors that can feed into it. To where
Can I ask a question, Christina?
Yeah.
Why is it that, and this is ladies and men, but I'm just saying because you're a lady, why is it that ladies, what causes women to ignore that this is not the right time to have a conversation? I think that's what I want to ask.
What's wrong with you, lot? That's what you're trying to say. What's wrong with you, lot?
Basically, so what I heard you say is, you know what I'm saying? You know what you think? I'll speak for me. I'll speak for me, and I feel like this will resonate with a lot of other women. I think it's a thing of just wanting to get it out now. And there's always this thing about, women, they're emotional and their hormones and all this kind of thing. And there is truth in that, where it's just like, I'm in this place right now and I need you to comfort me. I need you to reassure me. I need you to let me know. It's that craving for safety right now. And it's what your mind is going to do in that hour, in that 2 hours, or in that night, where I'm thinking, why can't he talk to me now though? Do you understand? So I think for me, that's it. I'm an overthinker. So I will think of every scenario. He wants to wait an hour to get story straight. He wants to wait an hour to go and get something, or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it's not even that. It's just literally like, I've just come in the door, or I just need a moment, or do you know what I mean? I need to calm down. I'm not showing you that I'm whatever, but I just need to calm down a little bit. I need to listen to a little music. I need to go play football real quick. Do you know what I mean? I need to just kind of clear my mind so that when we have a conversation later, I'm not saying the wrong things. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like we need to respect that. And that's what you were saying, and see that as actually, that is you caring about me. That is you caring about this relationship. That is you caring about this outcome. But once again, I think it's communicating that. Because if I come to you and I say, can I speak to you? Like, I'm not ready to talk to you. And that's it. It's something that I can see that you're upset. I can see you're anxious. I know right now you probably want to speak about this, but Chris, that I really just need like half an hour. Can you just give me half an hour? End it with I love you, a kiss, whatever. And it's like, okay, that might tide you over. And that's why it's like the communication in it, to be vulnerable, and even as a person to be like, to come back and be like, I don't even know if I can do half an hour. They might turn around and still say half an hour, but you're communicating it. I feel really anxious about this. Like, I feel like in this half an hour, my mind's going to go all over the place, whatever, Can say something again. Trust me, like in half an hour, I'll be ready. I'm just going to go upstairs a minute. I'm going to come back downstairs, and then we're going to get through this together. We're going to talk about it.
Have to.
See, so the reason why I asked the question was not to blow up women, actually. It was to highlight something. So I've been talking to my peoples for a little while about masculine and feminine energy. So what you mentioned there was that in that moment of that hour, you want to feel assured and feel safe. That is the feminine energy that requires the masculine energy to make it feel safe. So as a man, you have more masculine than you have feminine. As a man in that moment, you have to be able to let that woman know if it's either the right time or it's not the right time. And you have to execute that, meaning that you have to be true to your word. If you're not, you cause more issues. Then when you enter into the actual conversation, both parties actually, and this is going to sound wild, both parties have to actually enter into the feminine energy, which is to deal with the emotions, right? After the conversation is done, then the man has to go back into his masculine energy and tell her, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Because that energy then protects what's just happened. So when we don't, what happens is males enter with the masculine energy, which is the defense, the protective energy, at the wrong time. So now when you're coming to me and saying, like you just said, you don't want to come to me and say, coach, look, this is I want to talk about this particular issue. No, I don't want to talk about that right now, man. Like, what are you talking about? That's the masculine energy not wanting to deal with the emotions, right? It's the wrong time. But the masculine energy is also concerned with executing, making sure that obviously it protects, it serves, but at the right time. So once we're having our conversation, we both deal with our emotions. You say how you feel, I say how I feel, and then I have to go back into a masculine energy and say, hey, thank you, Christina, for having this conversation with me. Do you know what? After you've had that, I'm not exactly sure exactly where we're trying to go, but let's see what next steps we can take to go forward. Do you have any ideas? Boom, you tell me, coach, you know what, I've actually thought about it. This is what I'm thinking to do. I say, do you know what, brilliant, Christina, I appreciate that, because I didn't have no clue, but now I know where we're going to go. So let's put X, Y, and Z forward, right? Now that makes you feel safe, and that makes me feel safe because I'm not being emasculated, right? And you're not feeling like you're not being heard. So if things are done outside of the timings, right, it gets problematic, and that's where we have a lot of the issues too. We're using the wrong energy at the wrong time. You know what I mean? Yeah,
In the wrong amounts.
in the wrong.
1000%.
There were two things I wanted to look at. One of them was a point I wanted to make on this, and secondly was my final question, really. Question stroke point. The way that we argue really does tell as to what our intentions are. Did you get that? Am I breaking up?
No, it broke up.
Broke up,
Bro.
yeah.
I wasn't sure
I'll
if it
say
was
it
me. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, it's my internet for now. Fiber's letting us down at the moment. The way that we argue tells exactly what our intentions are.
oh, come on now.
So with arguments, unless you're built like this, because some of us are built like this, not many. The way that we argue it tells of whether we want to hurt the other person, win. This is crazy. It tells if
Could talk about this all
and
day.
you know, I'm going to bring it back to the whole original question, right? It tells of the power struggle within the relationship. So sometimes there was always a partner that wants to be on top, just ever so slightly, because that's where they feel safe.
Yeah.
And that, again, let's be clear, that's not a relationship, that's a partnership. There's a difference. Then it's because relationships are consensual. Because the public have a relationship with the police, we allow them to police us. That's why they don't have guns in the UK. It's not like that in the US. You know, but a lot of it is what I want to be with Juanita is consensual. So do you mind me being here for now? Yeah, I'll be here for now. And we agree that. So that communication allows us to change position. But what can happen is what's happened in the past is something has upset me and I want to destroy in order to make my point. We clean up afterwards, which means I'm not loving her at that point.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. And although we say arguments are a part of relationships, it's the way we argue is the factor that tells me what you're trying to do here. You're trying to win. You're trying to make your point so that I follow you. Is that what we call relationships?
That's deep, you know, because
That's not a relationship, is it? Nah, it's not a
that whole
relationship.
winging thing is that's a problem.
Power.
And I've been there where you just want to win the argument. I'm just gonna keep it
Destroy.
100. You just want to win. You just want to be right.
Yep.
And it's
I've
not
been there.
right. It's not right. And
Been there.
it's absolutely what you said, Kurt. It's about thinking, what are you trying to gain from this?
Yeah.
Do you want us to solve this, or do you want to be right?
Right.
Do you want to say, I told you so, or do you want us to still be together?
Well, this,
Like, for you to humble yourself and be like,
but this the thing, Chris. Even if you are right, and the way I'm going about it tells you what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get revenge. I'm trying to put you in your place. And the question is like, what kind of relationship do you want?
Not an abusive one.
not
That's
that
for sure.
one.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
But that's another key question, though. That's the key. Like, how often or have you ever said, what kind of relationship do you
Ah,
want? What do you want this relationship to look like? What do you want this relationship to progress to? Or what do you want this relationship to not look like? Sometimes maybe that's what's easier
come on.
to say. I mean, for me, I remember when I first started dating my husband, I said to him, like, very early on, I was like, listen, like, if you're ever going to be like aggressive towards me or like raise your voice or like go to hit
Done
me, like,
deal.
that's a done deal.
Yeah,
And I know he was just like, why would I do that?
that's got to let you know though.
I gotta let you know. And that's where I was young, but that was me protecting myself. It was just like,
Yeah,
I need you to know that this is a deal breaker for me. And it's also, and then what that opened up is not why, obviously it wasn't a why is that, but I then went on to explain what I've seen and the trauma and all kind of stuff. And I think what comes out so much in relationships and in marriage is if there has been any past trauma, and the way that you've learned to communicate, and the way that you've learned to love, and the way that you've learned to attack, and the way that you've learned to want to win. And I think it's so important to have that safe space to be like, where's that coming from? Why we're having a conversation here, but it's seeming like you just want to win. What is that about? As opposed to being vexed, like you just want to win. There could actually be a reason, a past trauma, something that is just like, it's because of this. It's because when in my previous relationship, this
yeah,
happened. Like, okay,
yeah,
let's talk about that because we're here now and we're in
yeah.
this relationship. And that was your childhood, and I want you to feel safe here. How can I make you feel safe? How can I make you feel like that's not going to happen here? What have I done? Have I ever done anything to trigger you? To trigger that, to make you think that that's what I'm going to do? And that's why these are weird and awkward conversations to have, but they're so important.
Another question, because we had a couple on last night, and another question. I know that they'll come on one day, and I'm breaking up. I'm breaking up in it. Am I there?
Yeah, a
We
little
can
bit.
hear you though, but you're
Yeah, you
breaking
can
up.
hear
Yeah.
me. Another question that is, when we're having sex, how does this feel? Does it trigger anything? Not during sex,
That's a
people.
real thing.
Not during sex, but can you talk about your sexual desires? You know, sometimes we enter in and there are just major differences between what's acceptable and what isn't. You know what I mean? Can you have you had that conversation? And if you haven't, why not?
But you have to, though.
But I'm scared about how they might react. It might scare them off, or
You have to ask.
I don't
Man.
think they.
That one I admit, you have to ask.
I would just say to like look at divorce rates, look at the reasons why people say they're getting divorced, and all of
50%.
that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? To be like, okay, what is important topics do you have? And what you said there, Curtis, is so important because can you believe there are actually adults that are in relationships, in marriages that have experienced trauma and their partner doesn't know? But it is affecting and it is impacting on their relationship. There's no go areas and they're thinking, what's the issue with that? Oh no, I don't want to. Oh, she don't love me, she don't want to. You get what I mean? But it's like there's a story there. And once again, it's coming back to sort of feeling safe to be like, do you know what? This happened to me once, or this, that, or whatever. So this makes me feel uncomfortable. Then it's a conversation, okay, I don't want you to feel that way. How can I make you feel comfortable? Or etc. Like that is so important.
Do you know what? I was just reading the comments.
I know, bro. I saw it and I said,
I was like, "Are we blocking this?" But actually, I get it. I get it.
yeah, I know. I had to read the other question thing above it as well. Sorry.
Dre, you're on it. Actually,
Yeah.
you're on it. You're on it. You know, you know
might
that whole
start the
daddy thing
conversation.
as well. That's a troubling statement for me. That whole term "daddy" makes me sick. But there was one point I wanted to make, and I know we're coming up to time now, right? I say this, and I'm happy for people to debate me, argue me out, but I'm going to say this. It's not controversial. I just think it's 100% fact that asking these questions will do one of two things. It will either show you what you are, or it will actually show you who you are, and you work towards this one thing that will save and is the core of every relationship: friendship.
1000%.
I say, without friendship, people, I don't know what you mean by marriage. I'm talking to us in the West who have a choice. I'm not
Yeah.
talking to those who are culturally, it's a different set of circumstances. I'm talking to us who have a choice. If you want a relationship, and if you want a relationship that's growing, developing, and securing and safe, without a friendship, you have nothing. And the kind of things that come to mind with a friendship are if you can laugh at yourself, and if you can talk about yourself without thinking, what's she gonna say? What's he gonna do? Are they gonna shut me down? Every time you bring that up, what's the response gonna be? Because in my relationship, my intention is to be safe and to be safe for my partner. And the friendship allows these conversations to happen.
Friendship is one, and I think that's what we're getting at as well when we're talking about that safe space. Maybe that safe space is having that friendship at the foundation. So you've built the relationship on top of that friendship. Because at the end of the day, let's keep it real. You can love off your husband, wife, whatever. There's going to be times where they're just annoying you, or you're just not. You're just going to think you what is going on? Do you know what I mean? But and I feel like majority of the time that is in the marriage part of it. But and then when that fades away, you need to have that friendship that is there that will stop you from being disrespectful. That will stop you. Like, no, that's my friend though.
Yeah.
Moving mad,
Yeah,
but that's my friend. That's my homie. You understand? So I'm gonna try. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's that. I think it's that safety, isn't it, of that friendship that is there. So when things get a bit cloudy and like the marriage bit of it, it's like, oh, but you're still my friend though, and I actually don't want to hurt you. I don't want to come out of this hard.
I agree, man.
I agree that.
I mean,
Big.
Berta's eye view, she says, friendship is key. I can't imagine my husband not be my friend. I haven't heard many women say that about their husbands.
Really?
That's problematic on our end, isn't it?
It might be. It might say something. I mean, I'm not by means providing a study or statistics. I'm just saying, it's not often you hear that. It's not even often that you hear about friendships. I got David McQueen coming on. I don't know if you know him, Christina. He's coming on with his wife, and we're going to look at that because I said to him, "How's you and your wife?" And he said, "Best friends, mate." And they're solid. And I think friendship, not everybody knows how to have a friendship. That's another issue as well. I know that for a fact. Friendship is foreign to some folk as much as love is. I mean, we'll get married, we'll take vows and we'll hug and kiss. Doesn't mean you know anything about love, friendship, happiness. It doesn't mean you know anything about all these concepts that we have. Some people are it's strange to them. And some people, whilst they can give it freely and give love freely, give whatever they give freely, some people in the same vein will struggle to even hold hands. It can be a struggle. But the encouragement is that we have to push. We have to push to that goal, man. I don't know what else we're saying, Christina. I will give you the conclusion.
Kojo said something, and he said that after you've had that conversation, after you've had that awkward conversation or that argument or whatever it is, it's so key to then be like, okay, so what's next? What's the plan? Because there's nothing more frustrating than you've opened up about something and you think the person's listening. And then next day, it's like, what? Was you there? Was you there in the room with me when we had this whole heart to heart? We were talking. Another thing I want to say, one thing that me and my hubby do, and it's been difficult at times, is whenever we're having like an awkward conversation, we hold hands.
Yeah, I love that. Honestly, it disarms.
Hold hands. And I remember there was one time we were talking about something, and I was getting up, but I used my hands to talk. So I was like yanking my hand away. It's just like, don't let hold of my, don't let go of my hand, don't let go of my hand. That's what he's saying. But I needed that in a moment as well, because I was starting to get to that place. And him saying, don't let go of my hand, is what I needed to hear at that point. And what he was saying is, I'm still here. Whatever it is that you're going to say, whatever it is that's making you get whatever, like we're getting through this together. You're not letting go of my hand to be doing all of this or whatever. Just say what you're saying, and you can say it holding onto my hand. And it's like, that's just something that is physical, but it's also so much more that is behind that. Is awkward right now. And the most awkward is to have an awkward conversation and hold hands. That's awkward. You know
It's a
what I mean?
energy.
That
That's
is
a lot.
but
That's
it's
a
also
lot.
like it's like a safety thing of like, okay, I'm here, I'm listening, And what I was saying earlier about the whole comprehension, about understanding, it is going back and being like, okay, so what's the plan? Let me know that I've understood you correctly. What I hear you saying is, or what your expectation is, or the best way that I could love you is this way. And that goes back to all what I was saying in terms of back to the work that I do. When you do risk assessments and you ask all these questions, and we have these meetings and we have these emergency strategy meetings, and it's usually something's gone wrong, they've been missing, exploitation has taken place, and we come together. And at the end of it, we have to come up with a plan. And everyone has to agree to the plan and understand the plan. And I think it's the same principle that we have to bring into our marriages and our relationships, to have that conversation and not just leave it, be like, okay, yeah, we're good. No. What's the plan? What are we doing next? And I think that's what I would like to leave with people. I feel like it's just important to have certain conversations that might be uncomfortable to possibly maintain or save your relationship. Now, that can be with your child, your niece, your nephew, your husband, whatever. Don't just be like, oh, everything's good, everything's okay, I don't want to rock the boat. Because you might actually, it's so funny, we always say, you might actually open up another level. You know when you're in a game and it's like, ta-da! Like you've entered another level.
Boss levels.
And that can just happen by just having one conversation that can change the whole marriage.
Yeah.
Change it like, oh, I didn't even know you saw things that way. I didn't even know that was your thought process. Okay, because I thought X, Y, Z. And it's like, oh, no. It's this. Oh, okay. Now I'm informed. Now I can make informed decisions. Do you understand? So,
can I ask a question? I want to ask you a question before we're done, right? Hear this? Can you hear that in the background?
She's got questions lined up for you, ready?
She's already setting herself up, boy. She said, boy, I'm going to set him up.
Someone in the background. Okay, let me leave it there. Anyway,
you won't be eating
when
tonight.
the snack monster,
You won't be eating tonight.
He's calling the snacking spirit.
Yeah, it's when I watch good stuff.
Okay, you get the popcorn. Question, Christine, I've got 3 questions for you. I would like you to answer them reflectively.
Yeah.
Meaning concise, take your time. My marriage is.
I'm really not trying to think of a bait one.
How would you finish that sentence? My marriage is.
The first thing that came to it is beautifully imperfect.
Okay. Here we go. I am.
Reasonable.
Is that in the context of everything we're talking about?
Yeah, I think I'm able to just kind of think and be like, okay, I see where you're coming from.
Okay. I need.
Security.
I want.
I want endless joy.
I hope.
I hope that when all is said and done in aspect to everything, that I did my best.
Finally, I will.
Stay committed.
Thank you. One day we're gonna get Michael on.
Yeah.
Because you guys have been through some stuff.
Absolutely.
And he does it very, very quietly.
Mm.
So I'd love to get him on and have that conversation, because I think the first thing that I see when I see you two is friendship.
Mm. I know it sounds cliche and I say it to people all the time, but he absolutely is my best friend.
Love that.
1,000%. 1,000%.
Love that.
So yeah, that's the homie for real.
That's what I want to hear. Christina, thank you so much. Guys, thank you for your comments. You guys, some of you come some silly gems, man. You guys know, a lot of you all know what it is, and I hope you know what it is. It's easy to know, but we have to do. So I'm just encouraging everyone here with all these profound commentaries, which has been enlightening for me and some of us here. Live it, because that's the actual thing that actually matters, is what we do with what we know, innit? Kojo, thanks for having us, man.
It's always a blessing. You already know that thing.
You know. And by the way, someone asked, when is David McQueen on? David is on, I think, the 4th of March. I think it's Thursday, the 4th of March. I might be wrong, but stay close to This Is Marriage UK's Instagram page. Chris, I don't know if you want to plug a handle. You don't have to. And Kojo.
I have some things coming at some point, but yeah, I'll get back to you.
Well, your personal one, I don't know. Maybe you're not.
My personal one is Everything Chris.
Okay.
Everything Chris, yeah?
I joined Instagram a very long time ago.
Hey, I'm not talking.
It was cool. One of the first people to be on Instagram was my husband. It was even before hashtags. Before it was cool. And I've just kept the name, which sometimes I do cringe a bit. But it is all about me, innit? But yeah, I'm going to be putting out some things about how to keep young people safe. So yeah.
Oh, look at this. Let me just do. Some people are funny. When is Kevin Samuels coming on? Well, boy, I got nothing to say to Kevin, you know. You know Kevin Samuels, coach?
Yeah, man. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm not interested. The man is not. I mean, when a man's preaching a doctrine that I wouldn't want for my own children, it can't be working. I don't really want to catch them like that. But listen, you have to DM me on my Instagram for the light setup. I tell you, it's simple, you know. It's interestingly simple.
It's wavy.
Amazon.
Anyway, still.
But yeah, peoples, thank you so much. Kojo, pleasure. Chris, lovely. Blessings to everyone. Have a good night. We'll see you next Tuesday night at 7:30, where we're going to get deep still. With actually, let me plug this. Meet the Thorpes. Go on YouTube, check them out. Check them out on Insta, TikTok. Meet the Thorpes. We got them for the whole month of March. Every Tuesday, 7:30. They are deep as, just like we had tonight, where we're going to talk about some very interesting topics around marriage. Stay tuned to both Kojo's and myself, our Instagram pages, so you or YouTube, whatever you do, Kojo.
Yeah.
And you'll get the post in time. Blessings to you all. I'm done.
Where does she roll? Appreciate you, look. Blessings, guys.